Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Phillips, and welcome to Up Close at the TT. Well, I really miss my in person presentations. The webinar format gives me an opportunity to bring in friends from around the country and around the world. And today we're going to be joined by Brad Kendry, from the general manager from Northern Colorado Power Sports, the BMW dealer in Fort Collins, Colorado. And Brad, say hello and welcome to my Minneapolis basement studio.
Hi there, Paul. Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to looking at some good images and chatting with some friends.
Brad and I do know each other, and as luck would have it, we have some mutual friends. And we're going to bring in Eric Wilson, who is on the top.
Hello.
And Dave Hewson.
Hello.
Now, I'm going to let Eric and Dave introduce themselves quickly, and then we'll move on to some photos. Eric?
Hi, Paul. Hi, Dave and Brad. Strange format, but very nice indeed. Eric Wilson's the name. 47-year-old after sales manager, sort of in the agricultural trade. From originally from Belfast, Northern Ireland, but I live in a little village in County Fermanagh, which is about 100 miles from Belfast, so out in the sticks. Obviously, TT wise would be the name of the game for the reason that we're here. TT first one originally 2004, and since then sort of 10 TTs between 2004 and 2018, and 2 classic TTs as well, 18 and 19.
Thanks, Eric. Dave, how about you?
Hi, I'm Dave Hewson. I'm from Lincolnshire, the greatest county in England, and I've been racing bikes since I was 19. I actually started on April Fool's Day 2000, which was fairly apt, and I raced sort of 400s, 600s. I got to the point where I was racing 1000cc super stock bikes at British Championship, and after a couple of years of spending a lot of money and crashing a lot of motorbikes, I decided I need a change of scenery. And I went over to watch at the Isle of Man and fell in love with the place on a quiet night's ride over when it was actually public road. So I went home, spoke to a few people, put my entries in, and next thing I know, I'm on the start line for Centenary TT in 2007 on a Superstock 1000. And spent most of my first year not quite sure why I was doing this, thinking I was enjoying myself. And then my last lap through the bottom of Bagara, which is technical and jumpy and exciting and completely different to anything you'll ever do on a motorbike pretty much anywhere else. I rode through the last lap of the season and I thought, I've not got that right yet. I'm going to have to come back next year and have another go. And now, 14 years later, I still haven't got it right. So I still have to keep going back having another go.
Let's go on and we'll look at a few photos and tell some stories. And the first one's Eric on the mountain. I know that I think it's tough for people to conceive how technical it is, even up on the mountainside. Eric, what are you riding here?
Well, that's my CBR 600. And that would have possibly, it would have been one of the races, just making it the start line sticker on the screen. And that's obviously just the left-hander approach to the bungalow section across the tram lines just before you carry on up a hill we rise.
And so that's on the 600cc, and this next one.
Yeah.
This next one's Dave. Dave is on, you're also on a 600 there, right?
Yeah, that's on my little ZX6. The 600s are quite good fun around the island because where the 1000cc bikes are, they just want to wheelie everywhere and try and pull your arms out. And you spend quite a lot of mileage basically having a wrestling match. The 600 in comparison, you sort of point it where you want to go and hold it wide open for as long as you dare. So they're easier to ride, they're good fun. I have to admit I prefer the big bike because I actually quite enjoy the sort of wrestling match. And I'm just over 6 foot, so I'll fit better on a big bike. the 600 is good fun. That's jumping over Bluff Bridge, which always looks great in photographs, but what you're actually trying to do is jump as little as possible, because the longer you're on the floor, the more time you're driving forwards.
So here we're going to go back to the big bike. This is you, Eric, at Balagiri, also known as Balascary, at an evening practice. Now, you're on a 2015 double R.
Yes, that's that. And obviously, the bike originally belonged to Dave. He bought it in 16 and then rode it for 2 years, 16, 17. And then when he upgraded his to a new 17 model for the 18 season, we had a chat. We did a deal to have the bike off him, and part of the deal was to run it in his colours with the Obsession Engineering Limited as Dave's colours and Dave's business. So I also painted the 600 in the same colours, so that for 18 we had 4 bikes across TT in the team livery, and obviously it's Dave transferring from one BMW to another. Obviously he had all the technical data, which helped me because I hadn't ridden BMWs that much prior to that. So I think our first outing together was at Anglesey in North Wales, first race meeting on both, and sort of across the weekend we had 4 races, and it was a 2-all draw to who beat who over the weekend. So it was quite fun, and it's always a good bit of banter between us. And as you say, that's a good shot. One of your photographs, Paul, from the evening practice. So maybe
every shot's a lucky shot. If you guys don't do something like that, I have nothing to shoot. So you had a good year in 2018. What was your fastest lap?
Fastest lap of the fortnight would have been in the senior race. So 2 laps over 122, so 122.39 on the last lap, the flying lap, which was 10 seconds quicker than my previous fastest lap of 121 from 2014, and then 118 on the 600.
There's not that much difference between the 600 and the 1,000.
No, as Dave said, the 600s they're brilliant fun, good fun for me because I'm obviously a good few inches shorter than Dave, so the 600s fit me nicer. But as he also remarked, it's riding one of those things coming off the ZX10 or the R1s that I'd ridden before. The BMWs were wheeling in places that I'd never wheelied in before, wheelie up hills, and it scares you the first time, but then you get and shots like that, or going over Balacry jump and stuff, flat out 130, 140 miles an hour, and you just can't wait to come around and do it again.
And here you are coming into Bluff Bridge, or actually on Bluff Bridge. Braddon Bridge, yes. Thank you. Here's Dave back at Balagiri.
Yeah, my wheelies aren't as good as Eric's. Yeah, that's my 2017 bike. I mean, me and Eric, we've known each other for years from the TT paddock. And it's not the first time Eric's ridden bikes sort of in my colours or whatever, because a few years before this, before I bought my first BM, I had a V4 Aprilia. And before that, I had a ZX10. So when I bought the Aprilia, Eric actually had my bike to ride. So I let him ride my old ZX10. And he actually, at one point in the senior, beat me on it. So we, after that, instigated the rule where Eric was always going to get the hand-me-down bikes that weren't quite so good. Because there's a deal that you don't beat the boss that Eric didn't listen to.
Eric missed that rule.
He did, yeah.
Oh, here you are on senior, in the senior.
Yeah, so that's into Greba Bridge, so that's 6 miles into the course.
Yeah.
So you get to that point and you've only got 31.5 miles of that lap to go. The big bike races, the super bike races, are 6 laps each, so they're 226 miles. the super stock and the 600 races, the 4 laps are there, sort of 150 miles each. And there will be days where we have a super stock race and a 600 race. So we'll do 8 laps of racing, and then there might even be a practice lap as well. So you might get 9 laps of track time. So you're doing sort of getting towards 350 miles of riding in a day, which is, you know about it that evening.
Yeah, exactly. So, and here we'll jump onto that. And in 2019, Eric, you didn't race the TT, but planned another adventure. So, what do you do in an off year? You ship the bikes to New York to decide to ride cross country and then race Pikes Peak. Eric, how did you talk Dave into that?
Well, I'd been out to Pikes Peak for 15 and 16 to watch a friend compete on an electric bike, so I'd always been in the back of my mind I would like to do it. 2019, I thought, well, we'll just have a go, because sort of stars sort of aligned, so to speak, with various other things. And I thought, well, Dave came over to my house for a few days earlier in the year, and we built the R version that you see in the picture there, from the ground up, really. Took the bike to Heathrow, and along with a friend's little Triumph bobber, Alan in the picture there in the black shirt, they were shipped out to New York. Prior to that, initially it was just going to send the bike directly to Colorado and use it, and then I thought, well, the expense and the limited mileage you get at the event, it's surely we could do something better. So between us, over the weekend that Dave was here, we sort of sat down and drew up a plan. Oh, we'll go to New York instead. Dave's agreed to come with me for the whole trip, as opposed to just fly out for the Pikes Peak event, and it sort of it cascaded into that, and then Alan joined us as well. So it became a two-part holiday for them, a road trip and the event in the middle of it, and then a 3-part holiday for me, because after Pikes Peak, my wife and 3 kids were flying out, and we were going to have a family holiday across the States. So it was it soon developed into something brilliant, but looking back on it, was absolutely fantastic adventure.
And the really daft thing is, when we came up with this idea, we hadn't even been drinking. So we can't even blame the alcohol for our poor decision making.
Yeah, well, there's no accounting for that. So, as part of your cross-country adventure, you did New York, Philly, DC, and here you are in the middle of the country in St. Louis.
Yep. Yeah. We did.
Go ahead.
So I left. It was a week-long journey, so 2,250 miles. Rode out of Manhattan on the Saturday afternoon, down to Washington, stopped off in Philadelphia, overnight stay in Washington, D.C., a bit of sightseeing there, rode up to Gettysburg, looked at the memorial there for that, over the Lincoln Highway, stopped off at the United 93 Memorial, and then overnight stay in Pittsburgh. On to Columbus, Ohio the next day with a visit to the AMA Museum. That was quite a nice spot. Seen some friends from the Ohio State University that I knew, the Pikes Peak team there. On to Indianapolis the next day, visited the circuit and the museum at the circuit. That was quite an interesting, and obviously did a tour of the circuit and the bus. And then on to St. Louis. I had a visit and a trip up the arch, the Gateway Arch there you see in the picture. And then on to a day and a half to cross Kansas. Between us, we thought, well, surely we can find some better roads than using the interstate. But to be honest, well, obviously, I'm sure Dave's the same. We'd never seen scenery like that. So I said I was quite happy to sit on the interstate, because it was all first time viewing. So, and it was spectacular. And the fact it took you a day and a half to cross it just shows you how immense it is. And then we made it into just inside the Colorado state border on the Friday evening. Burlington, I think, was the last stop off, and then like a couple of hour ride in the morning to get into Colorado Springs, and headed straight for Pikes Peak, and stopped off to take that shot, which is a good shot with us. That's the start line, just over the top of the seat you see. And it's so you've got the start and the finish on the summit in the same shot, and they're 12 and a half miles apart. So I always do want to take that picture and show the bike in its full glory.
Here you are on morning practice. It's still dark and
Yeah.
everybody's getting ready.
Yeah, that was the second morning practice on the middle section, I think. Yeah, with the trees in the background, yeah.
So how many days of practice? Did you only get in one day of practice, Eric?
The practice it's done over the 3 mornings, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then they do it in different stages. So bikes were lower section on the Tuesday, middle section on the Wednesday, and the upper section on the Thursday. And it's done obviously between 5 and 9, because obviously it's a public highway toll road, so it opens at 9 to the public again. So we were only getting sort of 4 or 5 runs on each particular section, and the only time you ever do the complete run is on the race day on the Sunday.
So this is a shot from race day, but it gives everybody an idea of what it looks like in one of the upper sections. So it was on Thursday, and your practice run, you were up near the top?
Yeah, we were on the upper section after the initial group sort of setting lap. Obviously, you go off on your own sort of 30-second intervals, and I made a mistake. It's basically what it is. On the last but one corner cog cut, which is a left-hand hairpin, on the drive into it, sort of reasonably fast, I think, judging by the speedo from the onboard, it was, as I hit the brakes, it was just in and around 100 mile an hour. And when the bike hit some bumps, because I was slightly the wrong side of the center line, went into a bit of a tank slapper. Managed to save the first one, and it just went again. And I thought, no, even if the brakes are there, because it was quite a violent one, I don't have enough room to get stopped. So I just, for the second time in my racing career, I decided this is a good time to get off the bike and let it do its own thing, and sort of slid up the road a bit, and managed to get stopped before I disappeared off the edge. But the bike obviously ventured off into the wilderness, as you can see from the photograph.
There's the edge.
Yeah.
And in the upper left-hand corner, that's your helmet, correct?
Yeah, the camera was on my sort of right-hand cheek area of the helmet, so that you can just make out the bottom of my visor there in the shot. And the bike is still rolling.
Is the bike still rolling at this point?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can see that's the wheels are up, pointing upwards, so it's still moving then.
So now, Dave, you're back before this shot was taken, you're back at the start, keeping warm in the van. And somebody comes over and taps on your window.
I'd seen the red flags go out, so I knew something had gone wrong. And when I saw people walking towards the van, I knew it had really gone wrong for Eric. And luckily, they told me straight away he's crashed, but he's okay. So I knew that bit was sort of okay. That takes the stress out of it a bit. But then Eric got a lift back down with somebody, and he just unzips his leathers and hands me he sort of handed over just the dashboard of the bike. Almost like a cat leaves a mouse by the door. And I just looked at him and said to him, what do you expect me to do with this? And it turns out he expected me to build a motorbike out of it. We went from a complete wreckage of a bike. We got it back into Colorado Springs where we were stopping. Had a couple of quiet hours while we contemplated what had happened. And then I got my pen and paper out, wrote a list of what we needed, and it was quite a long list. And then we started, setting out the feelers. Who could we possibly get all these bits of BMW off? And that's when somebody gave us Brad's number.
And Brad, and then essentially at that point, your phone rings and you go, and what do you say? There are these guys crashed 3 or 4 hours away from you.
Yeah, well, I said I'd be happy to help. Come on up and let's see what we can do. Hopefully we can get you back together and back in the race.
And this was Thursday afternoon, Dave?
Yeah.
It would have been Thursday, I think.
So now you're 3 hours away. Brad opens at 8:30 on Friday morning.
Yeah. At about 8:15, I roll up into the car park with a little rented van with what was left of our BMW. And at that point, Brad opened the doors to his workshop and lets us use his workshop, his tools, and critically, he lets us strip one of his race bikes down so that we can steal as many parts as we need off it. And it was quite a lot of parts. It was a front wheel, door system, a sump, water pump, radiator brackets, handlebars, switchgear, a fuel tank. We cut the rear subframe down. And there was probably a few other minor items that I've forgotten. So, yeah.
This sounds like an inventory list to build a new bike.
It wasn't far off.
So now 8:15, 8:30, the shop's open. What time do you close, Brad?
We closed at 6, and
Dave is still
I'd
working.
taken the liberty. Pardon, Paul?
I said, and Dave is still working.
Oh yes, yeah. We closed up shop, and then I came back, and they're still working. So I just helped out a little bit, and then the boys got it complete and headed on the road.
Yeah, I think Brad plays his part in this down quite a lot. It's without the amount of stuff he'd let us just pretty much just walk out of his shop with, Eric certainly wouldn't have been racing. I wouldn't have had a bike to ride home on. Yeah, I mean, Brad saved the trip. There's no other way around it.
And here is the rebuilt bike.
Yeah.
And just for comparative purposes, we're going to go back because the tail section, you did a great job in matching the colors.
We actually travel with orange gaffer tape. It's it's a specialty.
Well, it looks fabulous. And
Yeah.
so this is Friday night.
Saturday
Get
morning.
back late to Colorado Springs. Eric's had a chance to kind of nurse his physical and emotional wounds from the day before.
Yeah.
Did you did not ride on Saturday? Is that correct, Eric?
No, Saturday was the day of rest, but obviously, again, we spent most of that at a little bike shop in Colorado Springs, American Bike Tailor, just to do a few finishing jobs. And John there actually supplied us with the motocross style number boards that you see in the picture, because obviously there was no fairings left to attach them to, and I think he had actually used those himself, sort of late 70s, early 80s, as he was telling us the stories and showing us some photographs. So that was a nice little bit of heritage, and whenever you're done with them, hang on to them. It'll some for you as a keepsake. So again, as Dave said, along with the immense help from Brad and the team in Fort Collins, and say John in Colorado Springs, and everybody that made calls, and I think it was actually with Brad and swapped the numbers and from the phone calls, and obviously, as I say, as Dave said, it saved the day, it saved the. At the end, gave something big. It doesn't get him like to the way home.
Well, it's just an amazing adventure. I know that you finished. I think I have. No, I think I missed a photo here, but I know I had a photo. Oh, here it is. There you are at the top.
Yeah, that was obviously it's a Northern Ireland flag. So unfortunately with Michael not being able to make the event, I was the first ever person from Northern Ireland to make it into the summit, obviously quicker than him because he didn't do it. So that was just taking the flag with me, and I have that in the garage at home because I got all the competitors to sign it as well. So it's just a little keepsake for me to remind me of the trip and say all the people that we met along the way. So just another thing for the memory banks when I'm a little bit older.
Well, just fabulous adventure, and hats off to all of you, not only for Dave and Eric to undertake it in such an interesting manner, but Brad for stepping up and helping them fulfill their mission and make it work. I mean, it's one of the truly amazing things about this community. So without taking too much more time, guys, I really want to thank you for the time and the preparation and sharing your images and stories. And I hopefully I'll see Eric and Dave at the TT in 2021. Fingers crossed. And maybe I could
And Brad, yeah.
convince Brad to go over. I know a guy. I bet I could find a place to stay. And it's an experience unlike any other. So, guys, thank you so much, and we'll all talk soon.
Yes, thanks again, Paul.
All right.